Welcome into the Cinema 9 podcast. We are four bozos in a box today as we have a special guest with us. Of course, it's me, Michael Govier, Travis Roy, Eric Branstrom. But we have a guest aboard today. His name is Steve Paulo. He's a fan of the show. He loves movies. And he's here to talk with us about film. Welcome in, Steve.
Thank you for having me. Those are all true statements. That's a good way to start the show, not lying to people.
And we're going to focus. Yeah, that's not a lie. That's right.
Right.
And
all true.
We're going to focus on what movie that you selected for our Does It Hold Up segment.
The 1995 classic Get Shorty.
Yes, a movie I never saw. I know, Travis, you've seen it.
A shame.
Right?
Blows my mind you've never seen it.
I know. You know, it was just, like I said last week, it was always around, and there was sunglasses and posters everywhere. Like, it just seemed like Get Shorty was everywhere, and I just don't know how I never sat down and watched it. But I'm really excited to talk about it. Travis, you are on different ground today. You are not in Hazel Park. You're in a different world.
I'm coming to you live from Huntington, West Virginia right now. And coming to you live where as I was telling you guys, and will now tell the audience, I don't have my charger with me. So there's a chance that I could just drop out suddenly and unexpectedly about halfway through here because I might lose power. If that happens, guys, I will text one of you I'll text you guys my choice for next week and bid adieu to you all now just in case that happens.
And if the movie holds up or not, if we don't get to you.
Oh yeah. I'll have to text that too.
We got to get you on the record. That'll be exciting. Good. Have you turned the brightness down on your monitor to try to minimize power conservation? I would recommend that.
I have no idea how to do that, but
okay.
I'll try and
key or something.
I'll try and learn. Yeah, is there a key that's shaped like a sun? Here, I'll just type sun into the search here at the bottom.
So funny. You're a funny guy. Eric Branstrom, how you doing? You okay? You good?
I may not look it, but I'm horrifically ill. Had to call in sick today, but I'm here to support our guest Steve and you two gentlemen, and to take a look at this film. Yeah, again, it's just sick hell over here. It's just we're all giving it to each other.
Oh.
You were sick with the flu like a couple weeks ago, or
yeah. Now I've got just like random cold, and it's miserable.
Okay.
I think what's happening is that you are now a father. You have a child in your house, and as I understand, these people are carriers, right? I mean,
I don't know. I like suck snot of her nose every night. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Oh yeah, that's probably.
Well, you're not supposed to like play with it or like you should use a tool.
Oh, shit.
Use a tool.
The sucker thing is supposed to have a filter on the end, so that
no filter.
Oh, yeah. So a straw, essentially.
Ew, this is gross. This show used to be cool. Steve has children and he's healthy, right? So Steve, maybe you could give Eric a few tips. Yeah, you look reasonably. You sound well. You look well.
Thank you. Yeah, the filter is the first step. If you're going to suck junk out of your kid's nose, make sure it's you're using the proper equipment. That's very important. I'm glad everyone out there has heard that now. Other than that, we've just been keeping the kids at home like a lot of people around the world are doing. And yeah, I haven't had a cold all year because my kid's not going to school and picking it up from all the other kids. And so, yeah.
There's a silver lining,
I guess.
Well, I'm trying. I'm grasping at straws. Hey, Steve, tell us real quickly, where does it all begin? Your passion for film and movies. Where did it all get started? Man.
So I think like a lot of people, I just started watching movies at a very young age and just kind of loved the escapism of it and everything. My dad was always a big kind of gearhead. We had a Laserdisc player in my house dating as far back as like the early 80s. And so, I watched, one of the ones I randomly remember watching was like, Woody Allen's What's Up Tiger Lily on Laserdisc, which totally took advantage of the medium. Yeah, like, so I briefly, very briefly, spent part of my collegiate career studying film at San Francisco State University. That did not go anywhere and did not result in any kind of degree or anything. But I have always like thought of myself as like, not next, but like an Alan Ball, this person who's just, got that screenplay in him somewhere. It's going to come out someday when he's teaching high school English or whatever Alan Ball was doing. But I'm a software engineer instead. So I just love movies, like the very, very normal layman movie lover.
Where are you? Look at
out in California, in Northern California, about 25 miles east of San Francisco. So,
all right,
cool.
Yeah.
Welcome, man.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And by the way, Steve is a massive Disney freak, like a massive Disney freak.
Oh, great.
So,
We like those. We need more of that. We need more of that around here because Mike really brings us down in that department because he's kind of anti-Disney.
Yeah, these days
yeah.
there's a lot of online backlash against the quote unquote Disney adult, and I have kids now, but I can't claim that they're the reason I love Disney. I proposed to my wife at Epcot Center, so like
I told you. You love Disneyland. That's your real passion, right?
that's the real. Yeah, I love the themed entertainment and such.
You're one of those guys.
Yes.
He did a tournament. He did a bracket of the different rides or like things you could do at Disneyland. He's into it. So, and that's a good thing. I don't hate Disney, by the way, Travis. Like, I'm not hating on Disney. I don't hate Disney.
I mean, you don't really like cartoon movie, like animated feature films very much. You don't like films that deal with family issues very much.
What?
Or
I love family issues.
What? Every time there's
I do.
Every time there's a family moment in the movie, you're fast forwarding through it and complaining about it later. What are you talking about?
Well, I think children in movies are kind of lame at times, but I like family dramas. I love what's that movie? The Robert Redford one about the where the parents are getting divorced, or the one he did. Ordinary People. Ordinary People is a great movie. Not Downhill Racers. I like Downhill Racers.
Completely not close.
At any rate, Steve, we hope that you brought with you a few choice recommendations, because every week we do quarantine viewing picks. That's right. It takes us all the way back to where we first started. Travis Roy, why don't you get us started on what you've been watching this week?
I've watched some pretty decent movies this week. I feel like I had a pretty good time.
Great.
Let me see what I watched here. I went to 2016's Hidden Figures, nominated for Best Film, and for good reason. I'm glad Moonlight won that year, but man, that was really, really, really good. And I know it's like not a big surprise because it's like was pretty well lauded when it came out, but I hadn't caught it. And if you've not caught it either, you should.
Well, there was some white, real quickly, some Kevin Costner white savior stuff that people said was kind of bogus. Did you find that in that film, or do you think that was legitimate?
I mean, the position it's realistic that the NASA was, that department was ran by a white man, and it's a true story. So like, and also like is part of the story, is about white people like seeing some errors and like changing. So like that belongs in film to a degree, I think, in these kinds of films. I think. Say
no more.
I watched Knowing from 2009 with Nick Cage. And like, man, what a weird fucking movie. Like, you remember that? Like, really, what a representative, like, weird movie at the time. Because like, it came from like, remember like 2012 and like the movie 2012. Like, there's just like all these movies that were just about like people getting torn up by natural disasters. Just like mass destruction. It was like a
Geostorm.
All that shit. And like, this is the rawest of all of them. It's just like, here, watch scores of people like lit on fire at once. Here's a whole scene of like people perishing in slow motion as they're burning to death. It's like every major city blowing up in slow motion. It's just like all that shit, but like really like on a really gruesome scale. I hated it so much. And I love Nick Cage, but I hated
Alex
that one.
Proyas, great director. What the fuck happened to Alex Proyas?
I think that was like the last thing he did too, and it was not great. And speaking of Nick Cage, I finally, for my birthday, I watched The Wicker Man, which I've been saving on my Nick Cage journey. God, my expectations were so high. I thought this was going to be so terrible, and it just wasn't. It was not terrible enough.
I liked it.
It was just bland. I didn't like it, but it wasn't bad enough to be like awesome in a drive angry kind of way.
I just want to real quickly, Travis. Nick Cage dressing up in a bear costume and punching a woman in the face, and then being killed by a basket of bees, which he's allergic to, being put on his head after they've hobbled his feet. That wasn't crazy enough for you? That's not on the Travis Nutty scale for that?
Okay, so I don't know what I saw. Did it show? Does it show them hobble his feet? Does it show him?
No, it's inferred. It's not misery. Okay. They infer it.
Inferred.
Inferred.
It happens off screen, and you're like,
you hear it though. I think. Well, here's the thing: there are multiple cuts of that movie.
That's kind of what I'm wondering, because I did not see a scene where the famous bee mask went on his head. Maybe I looked away at a crucial moment.
No, it's like 35 seconds long. It wasn't in your cut because that's a long segment.
Weird.
Yeah, it was really bizarre. Like I was like waiting for that moment and it didn't come. But I don't know that would have saved it for me. Mostly because I mean, like, it's hard not to compare it to the original Wicker Man. And the original Wicker Man, Eric, that's still one of my favorite all-time viewing experiences, is watching that with you and Ange, where you start off a movie and you're thinking, this is crap. This is so weird. I should turn this off. And then being like more and more engaged and pulled in, which, that was a similar experience I had with 1977's House, a Japanese horror film, which was I almost turned off, and I was glad I didn't. I made a review on the old Instagram about that. Checked out Perks of Being a Wallflower. Also, fantastic.
Yeah,
both you guys had told me to. You guys you'd said on the show before I should watch it, so I did, and I was really glad I did. Mike, a movie that you recommended last week that when you did, Eric started cackling to the point he had to mute himself. So I'm a little afraid to bring it up again. But
it's just the title.
I watched A Walk in the Woods. It was awesome.
Right?
I cannot be, again, I struggle to understand what's humorous about that title, or like, I don't understand, but I'm glad you're so entertained, Eric. He's muting himself again now. He's still laughing. But
I don't know. It's good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Completely puzzling that it's funny, but yeah, no, it was fantastic, man. I mean, you got Nick Nolte, you got Robert Redford. Just, I mean, if the idea of these two guys, like, moving around a forest does not sound entertaining to you, then you're not going to like this movie. But I found it both entertaining and actually kind of profound. Like I thought it was really, really good. And I read some reviews. A lot of people found it middling, and I'm like, I think a lot of people kind of missed the point. I thought it had really, really big and good things to say. So I would definitely also recommend that. And last but not least, I watched this movie from last year called Save Yourselves. Which ordinarily, with an exclamation point, which I'm ordinarily very against movies with exclamation points in the title. Save yourselves! Exclamation point. Like, but this movie was so good. It's on Hulu right now. It's an alien invasion movie. But you're basically like following this couple that it's almost could be like like how a movie should kind of like, if you're gonna have a tonal shift where like, you kind of like, you're following one story and then like there's like a big shift. You need that first story to be good, like on its own, kind of like, I don't know. The only example that comes to mind is like Die Hard, but that's not really, but most movies, like when there's like you're following one thing and then all of a sudden like, okay, we got to deal with this now. But you have to be engaged first. But it's like this really engaging couple. It's like this really believable, like fun, funny, like lovely couple. You're like watching this couple just like go through their stuff, and like they're kind of like fighting, but also kind of like, but very much in love, and like having like kind of like a go through it kind of moment as they kind of like try to like stop. They want to get away from all that technology, so they go like to a cabin and like do away with the Wi-Fi and all that. But unfortunately, that just happens to coincide with an alien invasion, so that they don't know that that's going on like all around them. And it's this great example, like this great story about how things can just kind of sneak up on you, and like not recognizing threats in time and stuff. It was really, really funny, and also just like a really like a nice twist on a really like well-tread genre. So Save Yourselves. I'm going to recommend that one.
Exclamation point.
Exclamation point.
There it is. Eric Branch, what do you got for us this week?
Well, the pro wrestling documentaries are finally dying down. I've only got a couple more to watch to expunge this bizarre curiosity from my system. I looked at one called The Price of Fame. It centers on legendary superstar Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. It's a faith-based film. Like, I guess he became like, he got saved and became a Christian. So it's his story of overcoming like his turbulent past and then coming to terms with, reuniting with his family after a lifetime of infidelity. There's like this 30-minute long uncut scene where his son confronts him and demands an explanation for like his rampant infidelity, like toward their mother back in the day. Little awkward, but still an enjoyable glimpse at the legendary wrestling superstar. So HBO, I've been dipping into that before my trial ends. There's this new show, The Mayor of Easttown. It's really good with Kate Winslet and Guy Pearce. I don't know if anyone's watching, but she's a detective, like in a small Pennsylvanian, like junkie towns, kind of like Winter's Bone type of movie where it's a small demographic of people, and she's trying to solve these murders. And the writing's really good. I'm digging the direction and all that, so I'd recommend the program. I took another look at Empire Falls from 2004. Phil Hoffman, Paul Newman, Ed Harris. Very. Yeah, it's Travis. I think you'd like it because it's very saccharine and hokey and cheesy and wholesome, but it's just really enjoyable to watch and kind of like watch a movie with like your grandparents' cozy type of way.
Would it have a trailer with Salisbury Hill in it? Something like that.
It would be like some Motown song, like "Oh, when it's all right."
Big Chill style.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, one of that shit.
I
Yeah, check it out.
I always forget that that's Hoffman and Newman reuniting. I always forget that
Yeah,
Hoffman's
After
in
Nobody's Fool. Yeah,
After Nobody's Fool. Let's check that out.
So I got to tell you, today I'm sick as hell, laying on the couch with nothing going on. I can't even see straight. And it dawns on me, Christ, when's the last time I saw like a movie starring Jean-Claude Van Damme? I haven't even thought of this guy in like 25 years. I have no idea what's popped in my head. So I took a look at. Yeah, go ahead.
I've talked about him on the show like quite a few times lately. That might have something to do with it.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's true.
I turned on Hard Target because this is a movie I used to rent like all the time from Meyer Video Store back in the day. I would always rent it, and I seem to remember it being like a legit like Jean-Claude Van Damme action movie. Got John Woo, Sam Raimi produces. Like, so I took a look at it, and it's been so long. It sucks. Have you seen it recently? Mm-mm. It's horrible. We're supposed to.
I thought somebody mentioned that on the show months ago.
No.
I thought somebody mentioned Hard Target because we mixed up Hard Target with Hard to Kill, which is a Steven Seagal film.
That's really what happened. Yeah, we were talking about Hard to Kill, and I accidentally called it Hard Target. That's the extent of that conversation.
There it is.
Jean-Claude Van Damme plays Chance Boudreaux. We're supposed to believe he's Cajun. It takes place in New Orleans. It's like fucking ridiculous. And I'm sorry, it's not good. But the itch was not scratched, so I took a look at Bloodsport. It's been fucking like almost 30 years since I've seen that. You know what? I didn't care for Bloodsport. I like some of the fights at the very end, but like the majority, you got like Ogre from Revenge of the Nerds. Like,
what about the dancing? Is that the one with the dancing when he's danced with the two girls in that little
so ridiculous
bar in the jungle?
Yeah, so dumb. So that ended, and I'm like, oh Christ, those were not very good, but I still want to see some more Jean-Claude Van Damme. So I put on Kickboxer from 1988. Yeah, Kickboxer was fucking awesome. So I love Kickboxer. He's going up against legendary Thailand Leviathan Tong Po. Fucking loved it. So I'm good on JCVD for a while. And that's it, man.
Yeah, you should have thrown Street Fighter on. That would have been great. All right, I'll go through real quickly, and then we'll go to Steve to close out this segment. I watched Breach, a 2007 film with Chris Cooper and Ryan Felipe, which is a true story about Robert Hansen, one of the worst espionage offenders in the history of the United States.
I didn't know it was about Bob Hansen. That's interesting.
It is. Cooper plays Bob Hansen. He kills it. He's great in this, and Felipe's. Wow. This seems like a crucial point for him, because it's like a serious film. Laura Linney, Chris Cooper, some heavy hitter actors. And he does serviceable job. It wasn't like he's bad or anything. I don't know what people think of Felipe, if he's a legitimate actor. Sometimes he's a pretty face, so I can see how he could be seen as somebody who's not taken seriously. But he's good in this movie. He's rock solid.
He's good in The Lincoln Lawyer. I liked him in that one.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That was 2011. Okay, interesting. But I recommend Breach. It's a good film. I watched Mary Poppins. Speaking of Disney, I hadn't seen Mary Poppins in decades, truly decades. And after watching Saving Mr. Banks a couple months ago, I was like, I'll go throw on Poppins. I just was fast forwarding like a son of a bitch through this film.
The family part? Didn't you fast forward through much of Saving Mr. Banks too?
Yeah. The flashbacks I would. I loved everything in the contemporary time, but I didn't enjoy the flashbacks.
Did you fast forward through the part in the beginning where she murders all the other applicants for the nanny job?
No, I did not, actually. I fast forwarded through. The animated scene just goes on way too long. There's two scenes that go on too long. The animated scene when they're going to the park, and then it just goes on for like a half hour. And then the chimney dance, Step in Time, it goes on forever. I'm just like, good Lord. This needed to be trimmed down a little bit. But otherwise, it was all right. It was all right. Julie Andrews, incredible. Beautiful voice. Dick Van Dyke, god-awful. Just god-awful. And I watched Montana, that Stanley Tucci movie that we talked about a while ago.
Yeah.
Not bad. It was pretty good. It was weird. It was different. Very different. I'd recommend
it's quirky.
Very quirky. Kira Sedgwick is like a tough son of a bitch in this movie, and it's cool. I liked it. I was like, oh, this is cool. We got like a kick-ass female, doesn't take no shit from anybody in like a gangster world. So I'd recommend Montana.
I think it's also I'm sorry, just to jump in real quick. I think it's also like the first PSH turn at a villain.
That's right. Yeah, it has Philip Seymour Hoffman in it, obviously, too. Yeah. He's pre-Mission Impossible, whatever it was that he was the bad guy in. I did watch two movies I'd never seen before. and I knocked them out together. Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail. I watched them back to back.
What?
And
You've never seen either one of these movies?
No, I had not.
Amazing.
And
well, let's hear it.
I'm steeped in Something's Got to Give, so I'm totally down with Nancy Meyers, Nora Ephron type movies. I love When Harry Met Sally. So
how could you love Nora Ephron movies and not see either one of those?
I know I skipped ahead. I missed out. What can I tell you? Sleeping in Seattle. It's a lovely film. It's a lovely film.
It's a lovely film.
It's a lovely film. You've Got Mail. I thought was going to be like a follow up. Like, okay, so here they are 5 years later. They're the kids all grown up now. Nope. It was weird, man. Steve, especially Steve, seeing the internet portrayed in a movie 22 years ago is so bizarre. You've Got Mail, dial up. It's weird. It's so weird. It seems so ancient.
It's the time capsule.
It is.
I haven't seen that one in a while, but if I remember correctly, there's not a lot of weird internetness. It's the problem with the movies from the 90s you got to worry about are the ones like The Net, right? Where they actually tried to make the internet part of the plot or a character in the film. And today consultants on film and TV obviously have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to like computers and the internet in 2021. In 1995, 1996, it was laughable. They were just making it up as they went. There were no consultants, when they try to like make it a major part of the movie, you have a problem. You've Got Mail. It's like, oh, they got the little AOL guy saying the thing. Oh, how that's cute. Oh, we know that.
It is.
The whole like dialogue. And that's it.
Extremely dated though. I mean, just really like it just feels like very like this movie took place in 1998. There you go. Enjoy.
Yeah, right. And the fact that like in that movie, why is it a secret that they're always online? Whenever either one of them they like wait for their partner to leave. They can't be online when someone's home, like typing.
Yeah. They're mentally cheating.
The only thing the internet was for back then, this is obviously not true now, but the only thing it was for back then was like porn and cheating on your spouse. Definitely not the case now.
Clearly
way more out there on the internet now, but
there's all kinds of disinformation to enjoy as well.
Yes, a ton of it. You've Got Mail it actually has a great kind of story arc about the big bad book company and the small. Now it seems like a joke. Now it seems like all of those. This was 20 plus years
Fox
ago.
Books would be taken out.
So not only have all the tiny stores been removed, but now Fox Books is gone. Yeah, Borders is gone. Barnes and Noble's barely alive.
We're nostalgic for Blockbuster now. Things have changed.
Yes, it's even more dated than you realize. But the story about the big bad wolf, which is basically now just, I guess Amazon would be the biggest bad wolf around. So that still exists. I watched Henry Fool. I hadn't watched Henry Fool in a few years. I loved it. I love Henry Fool. I love Hal Hartley
so much.
But I actually followed it up with Faye Grimm. When I hated it when it first came out, I actually enjoyed it this time. Something has changed in me, because when Faye Grimm came out in 2006, I was so excited, but it was a disappointment at the time. But now I don't know what changed in me, but I actually was like, oh, it was good to see these characters again and hang out with them. I guess I got more relaxed in my old age. I don't know, but maybe I didn't hate it.
Maybe I should give it a shot. But to me, it's always they take away the ambiguity rather of the ending of Henry Fool. They take that choice.
Yeah, I know that always bothered you. Yeah. That still is That still changed. So
I don't know that I could ever.
Maybe you'll be more over it now. Who knows? We'll see.
I don't think I can.
Well, there's a third one too. There's a
Ned Rifle.
Ned Rifle.
I gotta check that. I couldn't find that one, so it was the harder one to find. I watched Superman Returns from 2006, which I loved. I loved Superman Returns. People hated it. A lot of people were pissed about Superman Returns, but I thought it was a real touching tribute to the Superman era, like with the title screens being the same and the music, the theme, one of the best score and themes you will ever hear in a film. Forget Star Wars, forget Indiana Jones. This is, to me, John Williams' masterpiece, and I liked Superman Returns. I thought that, I know Kevin Spacey's canceled, but he did a good job as Lex Luthor, and Parker Posey was great as his sidekick. I wish this movie had like a better lineage. People look back fondly upon it, but I don't think they do.
You know what it needed? It needed Richard Pryor leaping off, like skiing off of a skyscraper. That's what that movie needed.
You're right. You're goddamn
right. And surviving. I forgot, without Superman's assistance. I needed to,
I know. One movie that's Travis watched this week that he didn't mention to you, yes, was Superman 3. God awful. Just rubbish. But I think Superman Returns deserves another look. You guys should go back and look. Brandon Routh was a perfect Superman, in my opinion. I thought it was well done. Maybe people thought it was really dreary and kind of a downer, but I don't know. I kind of like that stuff, so maybe it's built for me. I watch IQ with Tim Robbins and Meg Ryan with fucking Walter Matthau playing Albert Einstein.
Somehow I've seen this like 5 times. I don't know.
Yeah,
why.
I'd never seen it. It's something, man. It's not even. It's like a period piece trapped in the 90s. It's really weird. I don't know. It's interesting. I'd say check it out. And then I watched Twister. I watched Twister with Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt.
No spoilers.
Yeah, it was, there's a lot of tornadoes. I will tell you that. This movie's terrible. Don't watch that movie. So
I'm gonna watch it. I almost watched
should.
it I was gonna watch it this week, and I actually didn't. But
I watch it twice a year.
PSA.
twice a year. Good God. And then I close it out with Doubt. 2008's Doubt. Philip Seymour Hoffman, Meryl Streep, Amy Adams going head to head. Meryl Streep and Philip Seymour Hoffman going head to head. This is very, very well done film. John Patrick Shanley, of course, and
Of course.
it's great. I just remember I saw this play in community college before it became a movie, and I was really excited for it, and it held up. Meryl Streep is, sometimes I kind of rip on her for being overhyped and getting too many noms and stuff, but she's really good in that role. It might be one of her best efforts, seriously. And Philip Seymour Hoffman's like ability to share emotion on his face, but also not admitting culpability, but feeling guilty. It's really incredible. I really strongly recommend that. So there you go. That was my recommendations for the week. Steve Paulo.
Yes.
Now we leave it to you. Last but certainly not least, give us a few movies that if you even haven't watched anything lately, you would love to recommend.
So I was supposed to prepare for this segment, is what? Okay. All right. No, I did. So not too long ago, I watched a quirky little horror movie from 2017 or 2018, depends on how you mark these things. But the movie's called Stephanie, and it is a monster sort of creature flick with a good twist that I wouldn't want to give away, but basically the movie starts off with a little girl sort of stuck in her home. She's clearly has no parents there. She's I don't know, like 9 or 10 or something like that. And at nighttime, there is clearly a beast that is hunting her. And we feel very, very scared for her. Lots goes on in the movie. This guy, it's not a perfect film by any measure. It's got holes and flaws like any do, but it's interesting. And the twist, really, I didn't know about it going in. It was one of those things I saw on Netflix and just went, creature in the house. I love that genre. I'm gonna watch, and it was well worth watching, and I'd recommend at least checking it out especially if that's your style.
Is that an F or a PH, by the way?
Stephanie with a PH, Stephanie. So it was on the festival circuit in 2017, so technically had its debut then. Didn't ever go to the theater. Got released on VOD 2018. So I'm not sure if you consider that a 17 or an 18 release, but there you go.
Okay.
So my wife and I don't watch a lot of movies. We watch a lot of television. So what we have been doing, though, is despite being huge Disney fans, we have not completely caught up on all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe offerings. So we went back, we watched Thor Ragnarok, which I can't believe we waited so long to watch. That one was actually a ton of fun. And Ant-Man, which is set in our relatively native San Francisco, also a heck of a lot of fun. So obviously can recommend both of those. More on the television tip, if you are at all interested in these things, and I don't know why I'm recommending something that's so popular, but if you haven't watched WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you ought to. Falcon and Winter Soldier plays like a regular MCU film, just broken up into 6-hour-ish long parts. WandaVision is something else. And well worth watching, I think, but it is definitely different. So there's that. Mostly, we've noticed, my wife and I and Heather, we've noticed during the pandemic, we've been drawn to documentaries. So we've watched a lot of docuseries and a lot of documentary films. So back when it was a thing and they first came out, I watched both of the Fire Festival documentaries, and Heather saw neither of them. So I finally got her to watch Fire, the Netflix version. You'll know it from the retelling of I believe his name is Andy's need to go to the what do they call it? Customs office.
Yeah,
to procure the water. It's a great little tale that I won't.
It's something.
I see Eric's not sure what I'm talking about.
The festival that like they got a shitload of money from people and it never happened or whatever.
Between their fundraising and their ticket sales, there had to be $40-50 million just disappeared.
Billy.
So, amazing.
What's his name? Billy McFarland.
Billy McFarland. Yeah. So yeah, well worth watching Fire on Netflix. We also watched WeWork, which is about sort of hits close to home. It's a documentary about a company startup that at one point was valued at $47 billion. And then over the course of that took 10 years to get to that valuation. And over the course of literally 5 or 6 weeks, almost nothing.
It's amazing.
When they realized
SoFi. What was the bank involved? SoftBank.
No, he was an investor, SoftBank from Japan, and they had 500 million invested at a $40 billion valuation or some crazy crap like that. I can't remember exactly. It was nuts, and
that's
on
Amazon, by the way.
That one, yes, that one's on Amazon Prime. And then the last one is a Hulu one, and it's a series, but it's short. It's only 3 episodes, but Sasquatch.
Yes.
Super awesome. I am way more into pot than I am cryptozoology, so that was sort of the angle I took at it. But they're both interesting topics. And growing up in Northern California in the 90s, we all around here knew very well what happened up in the Emerald Triangle, and knew not to just go wandering through the woods of Mendocino and Humboldt counties. So very cool. The cast of characters that occupy these tiny little podunk towns in NorCal, incredibly not surprising if you're from the area. And I think probably every backwoods in every state around the country is relatively similar in this way. But these are a bunch of wacky ass meth heads who think that Sasquatch killed a bunch of guys up in a pot farm, but they didn't, or he didn't. Whatever. I don't think it's giving anything away to say that no, Sasquatch did not do the murders.
I think the plural for Sasquatch is Sasquatch, right?
It might be Sasquatch, but I'll have to find out later.
I'll talk to my team.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. A couple of documentaries I recommend.
Cool.
Great. Is the Falcon Winter Soldier still putting out new episodes, or is the whole thing out now?
No, six episodes is the whole Megillah,
okay.
And so it's about a 5.5 hour commitment. Yeah,
well, that'll be my next watch then. Great. All right, great. Thanks, Steve. Really well done. Nice effort there. They even threw some horror in for Travis and Eric. That was sweet. That's very sweet of you. All right, let's cut the shit. Let's get right down to it. It's a Cinema 9 podcast. It's time for our main event. Every week we do a movie. We've done 56 of these. This will be the 57th of Does It Hold Up or Not? Steve Paulo is here, and he has chosen 1995's Get Shorty, directed by the, not legendary, but the rock-solid Barry Sonnenfeld.
Influential.
Definitely influential.
Yeah, he had a good run there.
He did have a good run. Steve, we will open it up to you first and foremost. When was the first time you saw this movie? Do you remember? Go back to your first viewing. Take us back in time.
So I don't remember exactly when, but I definitely didn't see it in the theaters. I was about 15 when it came out, and being rated R. It's not one I would have seen in the theaters. My parents were pretty hardcore about that. So I was probably I was probably a senior in high school, something in the 97 to 98 territory is probably when I finally got around to seeing it. Would have been, on VHS at a friend's house. Given that the rated R-ness is more of a mild violence and terrible language kind of category. It's not one that would have, been too bad of a problem for me on the home front. So, it's one of those movies. It's a movie about movies and in a sense, and that's always been sort of a genre that I've loved. Like I said, I spent a brief period of time studying film in college, and have, fancied myself at different points in my life as a future screenwriter, blah, blah, blah. So movies about making movies, have always been something that intrigued me. So even more so than the fact that it's a movie about gangsters. That part is always kind of secondary to me, but I'm sure for many people, Get Shorty is a gangster movie. So
interesting. Okay. Cool. Yeah. That's awesome. Travis Roy, what about you? Did you see this one in the theater?
I did. This is one that my mom took me to, and we had a copy of it. Bought a copy of it on VHS when it came out, and it was just like a family movie that we all watched the fuck out of. I had the poster. There's been some movies that we've watched. There's been some movies we've done on this show that I've watched a lot, like particularly Sneakers and Scrooged. This one's just about up there in that territory with me. Not quite as many times as those two movies, but out of everything that we've done on the show, I've watched this movie many, 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 many times.
Oh, okay.
It's been a while. Yeah, it had been a while in the Nickelback voice. It had been a while.
Okay, well, by the way, so
whiskey laugh coming in.
I started laughing because it's pointless to. You said Nickelback voice, but technically it's Stained. But why correct somebody between Stained and Nickelback?
Dude,
it's so
different. You'll notice 20 years. I thought I was Nickelback.
I stayed muted because I had the exact same thought. Oh no, he's not Nickelback. It's Stained. You got it wrong. But I stayed muted because why? Why would
Yeah.
Why?
Honestly, I was happier being wrong. I don't want to be corrected on that. The whole time though. My whole life, I thought it was however long. I've always thought it was. But who fucking cares?
Really doesn't matter.
Yeah, they might as well be the same.
That made me laugh. Thank you for that. And by the way, so yes, Eric, as you go back to your first viewing of this film, looks like Steve grew up like we're all the same age here. Looks like we graduated the same year of high school and stuff, so we're all part of the same growth pattern through generational content and absorbing culture. But Eric, in '95, did you see it live or did you have to wait?
I waited for home video, and I remember like the marketing push on this was like. It was insane. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing this box copy of Get Shorty on VHS. I missed it in theaters, but I had anticipated. Like I was obsessed with Pulp Fiction. There's a lot of like burgeoning young like writers and filmmakers were. So I was kind of expecting Pulp Fiction 2 because of my naivety and John Travolta and gangsters. So when I rented this the first time I saw it, and you can probably, if you look really closely or listen to the timbre of my voice, you can hear my anxiety level shooting through the roof. I didn't like it at all when I saw it that one time back in 1995.
Wow. Okay. Well, I appreciate your honesty. I didn't even see the movie, so I guess it's better to at least seen it and not appreciated it. I feel like I missed out. I should have been there, but I wasn't. So I cannot go back in time and regale anybody since this was my first viewing of Get Shorty.
Turn back time.
Oh, Cher.
I would watch Get Shorty.
Yeah, yes, Cher in that video. Very sparsely dressed. Very strange.
It's true.
I don't know what it has to do with turning back time. You could have worn anything, and turning back time would have been the focus. But at any rate, I don't care. I don't care about that. Did anybody, quickly though, has anyone seen this TV version that came out in 2017? Anybody?
No.
Oh, I don't
Why?
think so.
Why is this thing there? Why is it here? Why do we have to?
Oh wait, there's a TV series. I thought you meant like an edit. Yeah, there's like a TV show, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like why?
yeah.
There's a TV show. Now
It's
it
the
could
guy
be
from
great.
Bridesmaids.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What's
I
his-
just kept
Chris-
I
getting.
remember his name, Chris
double
something.
hits.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it could, maybe it's good. Maybe it's good, but it just seems like why? You know, why?
I got an idea, but I'll probably save it for a little later.
Save it for later. Chris O'Dowd is his name.
That's-
Chris O'Dowd.
Yeah, I like
And-
him. Yeah.
And Ray
I-
Romano? And Ray
Yes.
Romano? Oh, wow.
Shoot. Yeah, that's interesting.
So I hate the existence of that show for one reason only. That's when you go on Twitter's GIF search and you search for Get Shorty animated GIFs. Nothing comes up from this film. Everything is from that stinking series. And so I had a real hard time expressing myself in the world's highest functioning form of communication, which is the animated reaction GIF. And doing so for Get Shorty, it was a big problem for me.
I'm with you.
We all lost something. That is awful. Yes, I'm really sorry for you, Steve. I feel for you. Of course, we always go on the IMDb rating. Did everyone look it up or did nobody look it up? Who wants to take a guess? Steve, did you look it up?
I did not. I avoided it specifically because I knew you'd ask.
There's a guy who knows the show, Travis. That's gotta be
I know. I'm
Yeah,
impressed.
no. I was like, don't look at it. Don't look at the idea. Everything I did when I was looking up research was on Wikipedia. So
Nice.
I'm gonna guess like what I want it to be is like 6'9", but I'm gonna say like 6'4". I think this was like a little lower, but I want it to be 6'9". So
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm gonna guess higher.
Yeah,
I'm gonna guess higher. I mean, I'm gonna guess pretty high. I'm gonna say 6'9". I'll say 6'9" for you.
Eric?
Yeah, I looked. I'd say.
Oh, you looked?
Great guess, gentlemen.
I haven't looked, so I'll guess. You could tell us. I'd say that Get Shorty is. It seems like people like this movie. It's well liked. I don't know if it's legendary though, but a 7-1.
6.9.
hey,
Oh really? Wow.
Nice.
All right.
wink, wink, nice.
I thought maybe it would crack the 7s. I'm surprised actually. So, but hey, what do I know? We always go to Rotten Tomatoes. We give you 88% from the critics. Very highly rated by the critics. That is an excellent score. And then the audience gave it a 70%. So, slight gap, but that's still a solid tub of delicious buttery popcorn. Critics wise, yes, you can. Does anyone ever make popcorn when they watch these movies? Does anyone ever do that at home?
No, not once.
I never do that either. Yeah, I watch too many movies to make like popcorn and make it a big deal, I guess. So
I had a notebook and a pen. Like, how am I supposed to with popcorn making notes?
Right.
Like, it's not,
yeah, greasy pages. Yeah, it'd be
Greasy
awful.
pen.
The best way to watch a comedy is like poised with a pen over paper. I do the same thing.
Oh, this is odd to me. I find this odd. This is a very well known. Well, at least it was a well known movie back in the day. But there's only 3 pages of critic reviews when we've had other movies with 12 pages, 11 pages, 10 pages. That's
Well,
I'm surprised.
I think this was a good choice, Steve, for a lot of reasons, but mostly because of basically what you're getting at right there, Mike. I mean, like, this was a movie that when it came out, like, everyone knew and loved this movie, or at least liked for the most part. It was a hugely popular movie, but like, just, I mean, other than that TV show, like, I've heard very little about it in the past 10, 15 years. Like, it just doesn't come up in conversation and stuff. Like, it's kind of, slipping away a little bit. So I think it was a good one. And I hadn't thought of it in a while necessarily. So I think it was a good one to bring back, look at again.
That's a good point. Peter Travers says The Result is one of the best movies of the year and by far the most entertaining of the year. How about that? That's impressive. Top critic at the New York Times, Janet Maslin, said, it's part of the joke here that Chili is a diehard, oh God, come on, really? Cineast? Cineaste.
Sounds made up.
Cineast, I guess. I mean, why don't they just say cinephile?
I don't know. There's a diehard cineast and loves reminiscing about smart, stylish, tough guy films he has enjoyed. Get Shorty belongs on that list. So that's positive. As far as a negative review, how about Steve Knoll from filmcritic.com? He says, way too much to absorb in 2 hours, and it results in a talky, sanitized, often boring tragic-comedy that begins to fade from memory as soon as you leave the theater. Oh, and we'll do Roger Ebert real quick. One more. Yeah, I'm sorry, Steve. Roger Ebert says, one of the pleasures of Get Shorty is watching the way the plot moves effortlessly from crime to the movies. Not a long distance, since both industries are based on fear, greed, creativity, and intimidation. I know Roger was just dying to get that one out. So there you go.
That gets it why the critics loved it. Because like the critics are like, they're all part of that industry and but like, even if they're kind of on the outside of it, they're still part of it, and maybe even more likely to hate it. So they're, to see it depicted as like this brutalistic kind of cutthroat thing where it's like everyone's, equivalent of a crook. I'm sure they ate it up with a spoon.
Well, if Roger Ebert found himself in any of the characters in this film, it's clearly Leo DeVoe, right? I mean, he's tertiary, to actual action, but he's important to the plot. Like, he's in there, but like, we don't actually care about him. He's not who we're there to see, et cetera, et cetera. So
the walking MacGuffin, Leo,
right? Yeah, exactly.
David Paymer. Who doesn't love a good David Paymer showing? I know we all do.
I have a problem with David Paymer in this movie, but it's not Paymer's fault, because Paymer like walked into this movie, and as he came in with this stupid little hat, like he does, I'm watching the movie and I'm thinking to myself, Paymer's always been ancient. This man has always been so old. How old was he when he made this movie? So I got on IMDb and I looked, how old was this motherfucker? Well, he was my age exactly. He was 41 years old, as was Travolta, as was Delroy Lindo, Rene Russo was real close. Like, almost the whole cast was like 40, 41 years old, except for Hackman, DeVito, and that's it. Like, almost everybody else was like 40. Oh, and Gandolfini was like 37. Oh,
Midler must have been a little older at that point. Yeah.
Midler was in her 50s. Yeah.
It's so weird how they seem so much older than us, like right now while we watch it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. That makes so much sense why David Paymer fits so well in Quiz Show. Like, he's old. He's always been old. He just belongs in that old school realm. But by the way,
probably.
So how tall is Delroy Lindo? Because when when there's a scene with him and Yo-Yo,
Yo,
I'm taking you out, Yahoo.
They're standing next to it when he's bitching about not wanting to go to that locker, and they're side by side. I mean, he looks. I don't know if they made the camera look that way, but I'm like, boy, Delroy looks very tall.
I think the actor that played Yo is particularly short. But if Delroy Lindo is under 6'3", I'll eat my hat. Like, he's a tall guy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Jacob Vargas plays Yayo. That's right. So, and Bette Midler, you said Bette Midler, by the way. I was shocked when Bette Midler showed up in this movie.
I love her like appearance in the film is one of the best moments, like one of the best scenes in the movie.
Really?
So good. I love Bette
so natural and like believe, like when she goes to when they're in the hospital and like she's like walking through the hospital, like walking them back to Harry where Harry's at. They walk by those two MDs or those two EMTs. She's like, my God, have a good night, Lewis. It's so funny. Like,
so here's the thing, Bette Midler is so good in this that I had to write. I was writing down who like every time I see a cameo, like here's Bobby Slayton, here's Harvey Keitel, like whatever. And when Bette Midler comes on, I wrote her in the cameos section, and then I thought, well, she's not really a cameo. Like, this is a fairly important
She's in
part,
for
but
year
she's almost.
14.
But I'm like, no, that just is Bette Midler. I don't know who Doris Saffron is. This is Bette Midler. Like, she's, which I think is a good thing. Like, I just, I love her in this.
Wow. I was surprised to see her show up. It was weird to me for some reason, but I got over it. But I was like, I just started obsessing about the fact, like, who is Bette Midler? What is this Bette Midler thing? Where did she come from? I couldn't get past it for a while. It was kind of weird. It kind of like delayed me. I almost had to pause the movie because Bette
when a
Midler's
man
always...
and woman love each other very much,
right?
And,
Yeah.
This is I'm letting you know where she came from. So, like, I don't. What do you mean? Like, I don't understand the question.
I don't even know. It's just she's a weird. She's a unique person in this world. I will give her full credit for full marks for being a fascinating human being. I will give her that. But
that's why she could just show up and play herself over and over again, because it's just like, that's fine. We love you. We don't want too much of you. Don't do more than like one movie every 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, this is like the exact same time she was on the Seinfeld two-parter where the softball incident happened. So this is that same time frame, which is interesting. But so Steve, you chose this movie, so why don't you give us some direction here? Like, why you kind of alluded to some of it, but what is it about this film that it makes it interesting, shitty, really well done? Take us in any direction here, really.
Yeah. So I the reason I wanted to do this, so I thought of a few different movies. I'll say them, but unless you don't want me to, the other movies I was thinking of, but like I was considering Tombstone, and I was considering The Rock, and I was considering a handful of other movies, all for different reasons. I like them all. I stuck with this one because it hadn't been too long since I've seen it. I saw it about a year ago, so it wasn't that long. It was fairly still in my mind, but I wanted to see it. I'd never sat down literally, and I did, with a pen and a notebook, and like sat down to really kind of examine it, not just sit and enjoy it. And like I kind of thought would happen, there are pieces to this movie that really upset me in sort of a looking back on it way. And I definitely this is the kind of thing I wanted to like broach as a subject. Like, there are slurs used in this movie that I didn't notice in the 90s or even in more recent viewings, because some of them are one-off, and the main one is kind of bandied about so often that you forget it's a slur. They could have spent the entire movie calling Chili Palmer a loan shark, and they chose not to. And they chose to use an anti-Semitic slur, Shylock, the name of the merchant of Venice, moneylender, right, from Shakespeare, which is pretty well accepted to be a Jewish slur. Now, Palmer's character clearly also we know is not Jewish. The coat that he loses at the beginning, we later find out was a Christmas present from his ex-wife. So, okay, he celebrates Christmas, probably not Jewish himself, but why did they choose to call him a Shylock through this entire thing? It's kind of shocked me.
Well, they use really archaic, like 1930s almost language. Like, I never met a Fink. I hope to God I never do meet a Fink. But if I do meet a Fink, I'm like Googling Fink. I'm like, yeah, it means what I thought, but like, who uses this word?
That's a good point.
There's some old timey like gangster language going on in this movie.
You think it was about being really true to the original, Elmore Leonard book? Do you think that was part of it? Like, I never read the. So
Leonard was involved in the screenplay, so he's not.
And he said he loved it. He said it was one of the best representations of any of his books.
Entirely possible. I've never read the novel, so I don't know when it's set. I don't know if it's like a present day setting or if it's set previously or anything like that. That could have something to do with it. The problem is that sometimes they refer to Chili as a loan shark and what he does as loan sharking, and most of the time they don't. So it's almost like they knew that there's another word they should have been using or could have used and chose not to. We also
the 90s, they didn't care.
Well, but that's the thing. And that's what I think I wanted to do, is look back at this like with a little bit more of a critical eye of being like, I think of the 90s as, I now understand why baby boomers love the 50s and 60s so much. Like I now look back at the 90s the way that like, I think people of my parents' generation look back at the 60s and how awesome it was. Well, I think the 90s were great, but I'm also a white dude who grew up in suburbia. So the 90s were pretty awesome. Not necessarily true for everybody. And so I kind of wanted to take a look at this movie with a little more of a modern critical eye. Didn't love the F slur and R slur that we get dropped at different points. And whenever you guys want to talk about Chili referring to Morgan Freeman as the colored guy and Delroy Lindo not batting an eyelash, I'm here for it. Whenever you want to get into that.
Yeah, that was
it was
odd,
bizarre.
Right?
The one
he didn't even react to it. Like,
well, he did react to it in like, for one, like, there's, because I mean, I've not read the book, but I know that the role that Delroy Lindo was playing was a white guy in the book.
Sure.
And so there's like this meta joke that he's making there, like maybe the role needs a little color. And so like I think that like Yes, I agree. Like that's a really, even for 95, like why is this word being used?
Yeah,
But
that was more shocking. Yeah.
right. But Delroy's, I mean, for me, this is the movie that introduced me to Delroy Lindo. I'd never seen him and I don't think anything before that. And I never forgot him since. I mean, like I've enjoyed every role I've seen him in because the man has so much panache. I feel like he probably dressed himself in this movie. Like he just has a ton of style. And I mean, like he's in this, there's some big, heavy hitters in this movie, some big stars and people who will become big stars like Gandolfini, and he still eats up every scene that he's in. Lindo does. I mean, he just eats up every scene, just owns it. I'm not watching anybody else every scene that he's in.
Yeah, I agree. His clothes were there's the most amazing costume.
The pretty little outfit.
Oh my god, no! But I like the silk pajamas he wears when he shoots Yayo. I'm like, I need that. Is clearly my drug mule killing outfit that I need. I need that for when I kill the drug mules that come to my house. Clearly, this is the only thing to wear while doing that. No, all of his clothes were amazing. Yeah, that's the serious stuff I wanted to at least address. I don't know if anybody else had any comments kind of on that topic, but I just thought how weird it was that especially the whole Shylock thing, this was over and over again, and thinking that the 90s were kind of not that long ago, but then going, oh no, we had a very different view of some of these words and how they fit into the lexicon. So
yeah, what if that goes to Eric's point about, because this is right after Pulp Fiction, and there is a heavy amount of racist, slurs in that movie. And I wonder if they were trying to I wonder if that had anything to do with it. I wouldn't put it past these people. I wouldn't.
It's the whole argument about that Tarantino makes about, this is actually how people talk. I'm sorry, it's not sanitized for cinema, but you run into a criminal or a gangster, this is the way people talk, so I'm going to write it this way. Whether or not Elmo or Leonard agrees with that is another story. But talking about Delroy Lindo, for me, I got to be honest with you guys. I saw just a hint, the slightest little beat and twinkle in his eye when he made that comment about Morgan Freeman. And that's why I like Delroy Lindo so much, especially in this, the subtlety, that quiet menace. One of my biggest problems with this movie is it never really seems like, at least to me, in my opinion, that anyone is ever in any real danger. There's comedic moments where people are getting blown away, but there's no tension in terms of people being in threat of being killed, in my opinion. But Delroy Lindo walks around and he's just got this quiet menace throughout the entire movie, and I'm legitimately scared of him. He's like an older Don Cheadle, a more mature and reserved Don Cheadle, but I love the character.
The great John Grease, who we all love from Fright Night 2 and who played Wolfman. No, I will not forget that movie. Wolfman. Wolfman from Monster Squad.
Oh, okay. All right.
Anyways, he gets blown away by Ray Barboni in this movie, right? And there's it's a brutal, but it's a funny scene, but it's a brutal scene. When Bo kills Yayo or Yahoo or whatever his name is. That's a pretty brutal, you just cold blank murder. I think that there's stakes here, but there's also it's a comedy. It's a fun movie. So there's a balance that has to be struck between hey, there are real real stakes here. When Bo almost kills Chili in Karen's house, but Karen screams and then he decides to kidnap her instead in a very spur of the moment move. But I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, that's one of my favorite scenes. Just real quick to stick with this. I have some issues with the Chili Palmer character, mostly because in that first scene till the very end of the movie, he's the same person. He never really changes. He's just, okay, if you don't like this guy,
Eric, look at me. Look at me.
Gotcha.
He's Teflon, man. He's Teflon Don. That's what he is. Nothing can hurt that guy.
But that one scene when they do come and kidnap Karen, that's where I'm literally sitting up in my seat and being like, oh, there's some stakes here. He's affected by this. The character is changing a little bit. Immediately, he just dresses back up, slicks his hair back, and is the old Chili Palmer. I needed a little bit more of that heightened tension, in my opinion, there. But
well, I think there's an interesting question I have about that last scene. Maybe you guys have an opinion, but when Chili went to Bo's house to bring the money and to get Karen, did he know what Bear had done to the railing? No, because I don't think so either, but there also there is this moment when Bear is punching Chili and they're backing Bo up against the railing, whatever, that it really feels like Bear and Chili have talked about this, or they're working together, which is why when Karen goes and shoots that Chili's the one that goes, "What are you doing? Like, stop!"
Well,
like, you know.
Yeah,
But I mean,
I
think
agree
I don't know,
completely.
I felt like there was a little ambiguous. I didn't get a real clear feel on that.
I mean, I get that. I understand, but I've always felt like it's Bear's plan. Like this is Bear's plan.
Right.
What's happening here? Like Bo gives Bear the idea, right, to take the screws out, in the first place, and then and then then Bear and Chili have their interaction where Chili beats him up for the second time. The first time he throws him by the balls, which is pretty bad.
Somebody pulled his quadriceps from that, by the way. How do you
That's
pull
right,
a quad from being grabbed in the nuts? I don't know how that happens.
Being thrown by the nuts, but but the second time he beats him up, they become friends because he respects him. He totally respects Bear, and this is the one thing I really like about Chili Palmer is Chili genuinely loves film. Like when he watches
Real Bravo. Touch of Evil.
The Orson Welles movie.
Touch of Evil. He's like, trying to get attention from everybody around. Like, hey, I love movies. You love movies. Like he just really loves movies, and that's why he respects
that guy
Bear.
on the shoulder.
Right. So that's why he sits down and has a conversation with Bear, and and it's like, I'm impressed by you. I think you're great.
Right.
Like you're a movie star in a way. And so like immediately Bear is like, wow, this guy's actually pretty cool. And then like right after that, Bo does this thing where he's like holding Farrah, Bear's daughter, and he's like holding Farrah while threatening Bo. Not exactly threatening Farrah, not exactly threatening like Bo's life. He's threatening Bo with prison, but still like clearly Bear like looks like you get the feeling the Bear is like, you're threatening my daughter right now. And I don't even think Bo really is, to be honest. But at any rate, between those two things, Bear is like, all right, I'm getting out of this. I'm done. So he's like, I think he sets it up, to do that, and then
because he tried to do it honorably first. He tried to do it face to face with him by saying, "I'm out," and he wouldn't let him out. So now he realizes, all right, I got to scam this guy to get out.
Exactly. So he was gonna just go with whatever, and then Chili, shows up, and then Bo makes Chili stay. So I mean, I think Chili kind of gets dragged into it.
It's interesting that thinking that just because Bear would basically have to assume, right, that Bo is going to try to kill Chili in the apartment and not let him go, and maybe that's uneasy. If you know Bo, maybe that's
we know
easy.
Bo, the carpet.
Right.
We get it over and over throughout the movie.
Well, that's why he would drag him out to the pound. But the fact that he wouldn't let him go at all, right? Like he got his money. He could have said, "No, you just go."
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
But I guess if we know Bo, it's like he wants to tie up loose ends. Oh, okay, I guess maybe,
even still, like even if it has nothing to do with Chili, like Bear would know that they're going to end up on the patio at some point, probably because they just end up there a lot because they stay off the carpet.
Okay, so when the shots are fired on the balcony there, did I not see this right? Is there not going to be an investigation that shows that like a gun was involved here and their little plan with the screws isn't going to work after all?
My favorite part is taking the evidence and throwing it after Bo. Like, there's no cops that exist in this world.
It's Los Angeles in the mid '90s, guys. And the Hollywood Hills, and everything's obscured.
And he was
by
a black
smog,
guy.
so.
I hate to say it. LAPD, not
that's
the
true.
most like
under the rug.
pretty racist organization, I'll say.
But no, I thought of that too, Eric. I'm like, he's just going to throw the evidence after. I'm like, that's pretty suspect, but okay.
Well, unless the idea is that if the railing just broke, but that screws and stuff would have.
But the bullet hole, but the bullet hole in the railing would.
Yeah, you're right.
That's true.
That's a good
But Bear
point.
wasn't
That's a
planning
good
for
point.
that.
No, that's true.
Karen was not something. Karen screwed that up. She thought she was helping with, which again, that's like one of the things I like about this movie. Like, there's mistakes are made, like little things like this, that like these like realistic. I mean, it's a very unrealistic movie, but at the same time, there's like these endearing character things that they do. Where like Harry dropping the keys in the champagne, like, just like little things that they do that just are make them like spiteful or like silly or just somehow realistic.
So
well, okay, I want to talk. Yeah, go ahead. Go
ahead, please, Mike.
I want to talk about that locker incident when Chili does it the first time. But I want to give Chili full credit for being a consistent character. He is a lover of film, and that never wavers. Like, there isn't like inconsistency with the characters. Oh, suddenly he's a little more gangsterish than a movie lover. He's always a cinephile to the very
start.
From the very start of it. Yeah, they're talking movies from a very early part of this film, but when he's in Miami still and stuff, there's references. And I will say this, there's a lot of anger, and you were talking about the violence, like there should be some more gangster stakes, more intensity raised, Eric. Dennis Farina should have wanted to kill Chili quite badly after he punched him in the nose and then shot him in the forehead a bit. I mean, he should have wanted to kill this dude. I know Travis said it's a comedy, so it's going to be funny, but
no, but he can't. He can't because he's made.
Yeah,
he's still a made guy.
He's a made guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
I do find it interesting that the Chili was so sure about where Ray's head would be when he opened the door. That he, I mean, because
Yeah.
there is not a delay, right?
Mm-mm.
Ray Bones
when he gets
opens the door. No. Oh no, that's fine. The punch. I'm talking about the gunshot when Ray Bones comes to the barbershop and Chili's back there with his thin man poster on his office wall, and he goes and plugs him, and it just, I mean, it really skins his like.
That's tough to do. That's
like a
very
million
tough
to
do.
one
We'll just let
shot
that
if
fly.
you can
It is a
aim,
million.
right?
Yes.
Look,
It's
he
ridiculous.
may not have been trying to do that. He may have been trying to shoot him in the head.
But again, do we really
But
believe
he's
Chili was trying to kill Ray Bones?
Not really, because
No.
Ray's made too.
Yeah.
And Chili's not nearly as dumb as Ray. And so
And Momo was still alive at that point, so then Momo and Jimmy Cab would have
Right.
had to go to war.
That's,
It would have
that's
been
a
a whole
good
thing.
point. That's a good
Yeah.
point. It's a pretty risky move to try and shave someone's head with a bullet.
But yeah, so the locker thing, it's set up so well, and I will give the movie credit for setting this up, and it doesn't become like a running joke that I lose interest in. It actually keeps my interest. But when Chili goes there the first time, pays the guy $10 to go get the other key right next to it, and then he goes to that locker. He gets the stuff out of the secondary locker, but did they just basically mistaken that he was at 18, not 17?
So the idea, yes, the idea is that there is like a tour group. It looks like a Japanese tour group coming by, walking past the locker. So he walks up to 18, which is the drug locker, and waits for that crowd to come behind him. Right. So now the crowd of people is standing between him and the DEA agents, and he does a real quick smooth over to C-17.
Right.
And then when the crowd passes, he goes ahead and opens up. So it's as if he was still standing. And I'm sure if the DEA guys were able to like really look closely, they'd see he moved, but are you really going to take the chance? It looks like the man walked up to your locker, put in a key, and moments later is opening it and taking something out. So
but why do that too, though? Doesn't he already know it's set up by the DEA?
I think it's 99% sure before 100% sure.
He wants to make sure. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess.
And he protects himself pretty well with the whole situation. And it's funny because like I like that little scene with the cops too, because like he has like a perfect lie ready, and like they're easy lies. Oh, I love everything about LA. Big shit eating grin, and then he like walks out with and just leaves all this stuff like. And it's not, and I don't even think it's like a film flub. I think it's more just like he doesn't care. He doesn't like he's basically letting them know, like, I don't care.
How much money did they spend on this movie and making Danny DeVito magazines, books? It's all over plastered on that wall.
That gift shop in the airport is just apparently Martin Weir is the only celebrity.
It's just only. They didn't half-ass it though. They didn't put like one book. They put everything on the wall. It's pretty wild.
There's Martin's book and there's Playboy, and that's it. There's nothing else in that store.
No. There's a People magazine too. There's another one on the top back. It's crazy. It's like he's all over every magazine.
What I want to know is when this movie was over, who went home with a giant painting of him like a Roman senator?
That's a great point. I'm gonna Google that. See what that thing's at. That's funny.
So. I'm the one guy out of these that's going to bring some of these things up, but Martin Weir, this whole character, like, what does this character do in the movie aside from like
he's Shorty.
Kind of fun movie of that scene where he's making the faces and like I don't understand like. This character is more like he's supposed to be this huge like Oscar-winning or at least respected actor.
Dustin Hoffman.
And like he's acting like no one's ever played like a made guy before, and this is the role of a lifetime. I don't know about this character.
I think you're thinking a little too much about it. I think it's a thing where it's like any actor who's at that point in their career where it's like, yeah, they're big time, whatever. They've got 10,000 scripts thrown at their agent like daily, probably, right? I mean, they're whatever. So when they hear something that they think sounds good, right? The hubris kicks in, the ego kicks in. It's like, well, I want to do this. Now that becomes my thing. And I think I think he's just, fill in the blank generic famous guy, movie star, and that we're just supposed to sort of marvel at his hubris and his ego. And
although Leonard said it was Hoffman in his own experiences based on Dustin Hoffman.
That's funny.
Fair.
Yeah, which is fair. He's a short guy.
We haven't given any credit to Scott Frank yet. I want to shout out to Scott Frank, the screenwriter. He's the one that found the comedy in the book, right? He's the one that Elmore Leonard read that script and went, I didn't know I wrote that this was a comedy. But it turns out it is. And Scott Frank has gone on to have a great career, Deadpool and that kind of stuff. So shout out to him. And also we haven't talked about Gene Hackman yet. Let's talk about Gene.
Yeah.
I mean,
he plays this straight, right? He's the straight guy.
He's the straight guy, but he's also like, he's the dumbest fuck out of all of them. Maybe it's
he's the fool. He's not the straight guy. He's the fool.
Yeah, he's the fool. He's the fool.
Like
nothing more foolish than when he gets drunk and calls Ray Bones and like invites him over. Like, just like, what on earth are you doing right now, dude? Like, this is the worst idea.
So Eric, you're talking about like kind of a lack of stakes, and I totally agree with you. It's a low stakes thing. Generally, these people are not in like bodily danger at any given moment. I get that. I also don't care, but I agree with you that it's true. The times when we do have like real stakes, I think, are parts where Delroy Lindo and his partner Ronnie are there, potentially threatening Harry. I feel like they could hurt him. I believe they'd hurt him. And anything involving and eventually, right? But everything involving Ray Bones, right? He is a sinister character who we know has no problem hurting anyone, right? He punches Faye in the face within moments of meeting her. Yeah. And so when Harry screws up, he tends to screw up at the times that could cause the most violence to occur to him. Possibly, right? Because he does it when Bo and Ronnie are, Chili wants to get rid of Bo and Ronnie for him, and he screws up every instruction he's given and does the opposite of everything he could possibly do, and everything he could do wrong he does, and they remain in the picture. And then he invites Ray Bones to LA. I mean, literally tells him to come on, dipshit, right. Get over here, right? And without that part, the movie really doesn't end up going anywhere, right? If Ray Bones never comes to LA, do we give a shit about any of the money or like whether this movie gets made? Like, it really doesn't matter. We need Ray Bones to come in, and it's only because because Harry, Zim doesn't ask for dick, right? And so that's why Bones comes. So I think that's why I think of Harry as like the fool. It's like he's there to screw up in the most plot advancing way possible at any given moment, and I think he does.
He's hilarious. I mean, when Hackman does comedy, he is downright hilarious, and I know he didn't want to do the picture, but he's so funny in his role. The problem for me is twofold. Okay, I'm sorry to be that guy, but he is like a schlock movie producer who does like these like silly, like what are like his movies called, like Grotesque 1 and 2 or whatever.
Right. Creatures, yeah.
I think you could have squeezed a little bit more Hollywood satire out of him if he was maybe a more pronounced and well-known producer, because that whole B movie like deal aspect seems a little one note for me, and it really doesn't go much of anywhere. And two, after he gets attacked by Ray and Uncle Rico, he's largely kind of just written out of the picture for the last 40 minutes.
Yeah, is there much movie left at that point? Like, he ends up in the hospital and then ends up at the brunch with Martin when he realizes they're not making his movie, they're making Chili's movie, and that's a hilarious moment. Yeah, it's a very funny scene, hilarious moment, I think. And I think that the thing about him being a schlock producer, you need two things, I think. And the reason that it works for him is he needs to want to get better and do something bigger. And if he was already kind of mainline, that wouldn't be so much of a drive, right? He really wants to. He talks about at the beginning in Karen's house, Chili comes in the middle of the night. He talks about the Leo DeVoe story. Oh, he's got the money. He wants to mix up with the celebs and all this stuff. And he's like, that's Harry talking about himself, right? Obviously he's not talking about Chili's story. So he wants to go up a level. And then second, if Harry were a more mainline sort of producer director, he wouldn't need gangster money to make his movies. And if he doesn't need gangster money to make his movies, why is he in this world with Bo and Ronnie and eventually with Ray and Chili? So I think that that schlock movie thing is kind of an important part, just to keep, again, he's kind of the reason the plot keeps moving along in a lot of ways. Oh yeah. Obviously Chili does things, but Harry Zim is kind of why we keep having trouble to get out of. If it weren't for his idiocy and bumbling,
Right. Look at how he responds when Chili comes in to help him. He tells him all the stuff to do, and then he does none of it. He does the exact opposite of what Chili tells him to do. I think, Eric, and your opinions are your own. If you didn't care for the movie, you don't care for the movie. But I think that something that might put it in a different light for you is that, this is a hangout movie, right? This is a hangout movie with a little bit more of a plot than most hangout movies, because this is a movie where you're just going to get to know a bunch of funny characters, a bunch of wacky characters interacting with one another, and they're doing stuff, and to get all hung up on what is the function of so and so? I don't know that necessarily always matters. Some of these people are just here because they're just fun characters.
Yeah.
Great points, Scott and Travis. I can see both of those for me. Scott Frank is one of my favorite screenwriters. His script for Out of Sight is top 10 of the 90s, in my opinion. Jackie Brown is my favorite Tarantino film, and at least it's getting up there.
Sounds like you're a Leonard fan.
But in both of those Elmore Leonard adaptations, we've got characters that I really care about, and I get really worried when they're in danger. In this, personally, I just really didn't care that much about anybody.
Honestly, that's fair, I think.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I think
Travis,
that is. Yeah. I think that's reasonable.
I think it's one of the only people that gets in real danger is Harry, and we're kind of not meant to care about him that much. You know, he's not that empathetic, but he's the one that's really in the most danger. I mean, do we ever for a moment think Karen is going to get shot or that Bo's going to hurt her when he kidnaps her? I don't think for a second that that's the case, right?
Because it's still a comedy.
Yeah, it's still a comedy. Yeah, good point.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing I really dislike about this movie. John Lurie's score is a blatant ripoff of Herbie Hancock's Cantaloupe Island. I mean, the whole time I'm like, this is amazing. This the craven theft taking place here. It's just a complete ripoff.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was actually annoyed by it. I'm like, okay, here's this goofy score.
I hate it.
Kicking in. You know, some goofy's about to happen or some hijinks are about to go down.
With that awful 90s pink font that starts the movie up. I'm like,
I and the Grammys hard disagree. Just for the record, I love Lurie's score. It did win a Grammy Award.
Heads up.
This won a Grammy.
Yes, it did for this. For the score.
It shouldn't have.
Well, it did.
Holy cow!
I don't know what it was up against. Maybe it was only up against
I must not have been against
Goes
Herbie.
West. I have no idea, but
I hope it wasn't against Herbie Hancock because he would have been very upset.
Probably.
By the way, if you guys Google giant Danny DeVito painting, Get Shorty, his career has gone in such a direction with It's Always Sunny that there's like a billion posters and new paintings. It's just, you'll never find it. I don't know where it is. It's long gone. It's out of control. People love Danny DeVito, which is, it's totally deserving. He's classic. He's great. But I want to give Dennis Farina credit in this movie. I just love watching Dennis Farina, man. I don't care what it is. I know he got typecast a bit as like, this is, to me, this movie and Snatch, it's the same thing. He's like, he's on an airplane. He's pissed. He's saying fuck a lot. And that's cool. I could see it all day, though. I could watch him do it for hours. So I want to make sure Mr. Farina gets my full credit and awards, even though he's dead.
He was in Empire Falls, and he was actually laugh out loud funny in that miniseries. Dennis Farina, former Chicago cop too. It's unbelievable.
Right? Yeah, he really was a cop. Yeah.
I'll never forget Dennis Farina for teaching me, in a roundabout way, the difference between IE and EG, because this is definitely the movie. This is the first time I didn't take like any kind of Latin in high school. So
that's a great line. I want to download that quote. Yeah. IEEG, who gives a fuck? Yeah.
IEEG, fuck you.
I think Travis's computer is dying. We're going to switch him out here. We're going to remove him from the computer and add him on the phone. Hi, Travis.
Hey, it's better than nothing. I figured this one.
Better than nothing.
Yeah,
that's great. We're happy to have you. Welcome to the show. We're doing Get Shorty, and we're slowly getting to the end. So I want to tie up any loose ends before we get to our final calls here, guys. Get them all out.
Did you guys know that Barry Sonnenfeld doesn't like this movie at all? He thinks it's boring and one of his worst films.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. That's funny.
I find the movie boring. Maybe Barry Sonnenfeld didn't like his cut or something. I don't know, but it's bizarre.
So I had a few things that kind of popped up to me that maybe I wouldn't care about necessarily, but it's fun to bring up nitpicky stuff when you're doing a conversation like this. It never, ever, ever rains in Los Angeles like it does the moment that Chili Palmer is picking up his rental car. The torrential typhoon downpour that you notice is occurring then. And we're to assume an hour or two later, he's at Karen Flores' home where you can hear crickets. How often do you hear crickets in a rainstorm right there? There's no rain falling when Harry looks out the back of the pool.
How often is it 34 degrees in Miami?
Well, fair, but like this was at least they explained that. Like, oh, it's Miami. How weird is that? This is just like, oh no, it's raining. Here's your minivan. And then Karen's house. Harry looks outside, sees the pool. We don't hear like waves or anything. We hear crickets. But later on in the movie, Chili and Karen are sitting out back of her house at the beach. I'm not. Did you catch that? There's like a sunset and the smoggy sunset.
Yeah. I like that scene.
But where are they? What? Like most of Los Angeles is not beach. Believe it or not, there's a whole inland of that city. Like
you want to drive 3 hours to
so
go have this romantic moment.
It's something of a fantasy, right? The movie is something of a fantasy. I mean, it's like deliberately kind of like it's like a playful stab at Hollywood, and like I don't know how seriously we're supposed to be taking it. It is ultimately like this supposed
Right.
to be like a kind of a goofy comedy. I mean, Elmore Leonard's book, that sounds like it was something else. Like we were supposed to take that seriously, but this movie is not that.
That's a fair point.
I also want to point out two things that happen when we go into Martin's house. Chili and Karen come over, right, and they want to talk to him about this movie. One, he has an Oscar. They literally pan past it. So even though Harry refers to him as Oscar nominated, for some reason they left that on set, I guess.
Yeah.
And then
funny.
what the hell are his couches made of stone? Did anybody catch this? They look like marble or cement or something. They have cushions, so at least there's like some salt. But like I would notice that like underneath,
so
Danny DeVito's arm, it's like it looks like broken concrete, like
Greco-Roman pillars.
I guess maybe it's supposed to be marble. That at least would be
like that.
fancy, And
He's
then the last thing I want to
star.
say, the last thing I want to bring up because I wrote these stupid little notes, but like several times we see the famous Angeline billboard on top of Harry's office building. These popped up all over Los Angeles in the 80s, and the woman who was featured in the billboard, who had done nothing famous to deserve, she just literally bought these billboards featuring her back then, ran for governor in 2003, the last time we had a recall election, and is back on the ballot in 2021. So good luck to Angeline running for California governor.
There's a lot of really qualified candidates.
Oh god.
Yeah, yeah.
The worst thing about California politics is the recall.
Jesus.
What about the fact, I'm not slut shaming here at all. I'm just saying Karen's in bed with Harry when we first meet them, and then she's with Chili pretty quickly. Like that relationship.
But she's not with Harry.
Right. It's clear that they didn't do anything because she went to bed first, told him you could sleep in the maid's room, I guess is a thing she has.
But they're sharing a bed, so they're not banging?
They're not banging.
No. Harry snuck into bed while she was asleep. I think that's pretty clear from their conversation.
And even if they may have been a little bit of hanky panky something going on there, but she was.
I don't care. Fuck who you want, what you want. I'm just
wasn't that into him. I mean, she's clearly not that into him. And he's the kind of guy that like when like there's an intruder in the house, he's checking out the leaves of the pool, which that Chili does later.
Yeah, the pool comes up twice in the movie, which is interesting. So,
did they give Karen enough to do in the movie, in your opinion?
Yes.
What does she do?
She's an actress that's struggling. She wants to get credit for like legit work.
She's not struggling.
No, she
drives a convertible.
She wants more. She wants more.
Well,
I'm talking professionally.
She gets more. She's using the whole situation to segue from acting, which is what she's known for, but not getting the work that she used to, and never liked the work that very much that she was getting in the first place. And she's segueing into producing. So she's taken a whole like career step up in throughout the course of this film. And also, I think that she's like a consistently strong and like resilient character that she stands up to Chili. She stands up to every man in the movie. She stands up to him and holds her own. And I also have always kind of really liked the romance between her and Chili because it's so underplayed. It's so just like it's just very natural, and it's just kind of like this really organic thing that happens throughout the course of the movie. Like they don't even talk about it hardly; it just happens, and I like that.
Yeah.
When they finally do kiss, it's sort of like you both expected it to happen because like they've just sort of been hanging out together and clearly developing something, but also it's a moment that I found myself kind of like, oh, hey, look at that, they actually kiss. I had forgotten at that moment, and it's not like surprising, but it is kind of like it feels organic and it feels earned. It feels like we've watched them do this. Yeah. And obviously it's not like a sex scene or whatever, but it's like, but even just this moment of like tenderness between them, which obviously Chili doesn't have a ton of, does feel earned. And I think that that's to credit. I also want to point out, like, especially for this era of filmmaking, the age appropriateness of these two for each other as actors was awesome. Like, this is a kind of time when you would be seeing, James Bond dating women 30 years younger than him and whatever. and every time you got Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones together or whatever. And to have these two be, probably, I mean, I don't know exactly, but within a year or two of each other at age was kind of refreshing.
That's a great call. And I've always liked Renee Russo. She's a very subtle actress. She just seems to tag along in this one for me personally.
I don't think you're wrong, Eric. I don't think you're wrong, but I think that there is a purpose that she plays that is to, first of all, this movie would not pass the Bechdel test, right? There's no two women talking to each other about something else, right? But her purpose in this is she is sort of leading Chili through the world of this Hollywood producer stuff, at the same time realizing she knows enough. Basically, if this Goomba from Miami can do this. Like I can do this, like I know more than he does. I can do this. And this is where I'll have control rather than crawling out of graves all day.
Yeah.
What a scream, she'll be able to be in control and do this. And I think that honestly, it's like Bo, Delroy Lindo has like maybe my favorite line of the entire film, which is, what's the point of living in LA if you're not in the movie business? And I mean, high up in it. And that's, I think, that is the driving force for all these characters. Every one of them is trying to advance their careers. Chili is obviously moving into a completely different career, and Karen trying to move, from in front of the camera to behind. But I think that is what we're seeing is she is driving his journey through the movie business as a sort of proxy for her own. And then, yes, that means that she's following in a sense, but following from the front, like in a way, but then, her career course does sort of follow Chili's, but it's because she's driving that.
Yeah. I think you make good points. I mean, you're watching Zim trying to become a legitimate. You're watching Bo trying to like get into the industry. They're all, they're all trying to step up.
Yeah, that's well said. Well, we had a lot of great points here. We covered a tremendous amount of ground here on the Cinema 9 pod with Get Shorty, 1995 film, not the stupid TV show, folks. This is a movie. Well, we feel, even if it is good, it's being underplayed. This movie's not being given enough credit, time, and energy in cyberspace, which is a term from the 90s. So I want to give the movie full credit for that, but it's about that time. We got to get to that point where we finally make our call on this movie. Does it hold up or not? It's our signature segment. We do it every week on the Cinema 9 podcast. I can't remember. Do we let our guests go last or first? Usually the person who picks the movie usually goes first, right? Or
let's give them the option. What would you prefer, Steve?
I'll head it off. That's fine. We'll start it up. I think that as a movie, I think this. Okay, let me start it this way. I know that there's some confusion, and I've had it too, and I know you guys have it too. What the hell exactly does it hold up mean? Right? Are we just saying, do I still think this is a good movie? Or is there more of a, could this movie have been made today?
That's kind of what I lean to. Is it still relevant if it came out now? And
that's not what I do.
That's not what I do either. Yeah.
Really? So it's funny because I think there are things that happen in this movie in little moments that make me feel like it's even older than it is. Like it feels like the late 80s in a lot of ways. The way people are dressed, it looks like Christmas at Nakatomi. They're smoking indoors. Can I use your phone? Everybody's reading the newspaper. There's all kinds of, Harry picking up the phone. Operator, I need Las Vegas information. What the hell? What is this, like Klondike 5? Like, what are you doing? Like, so there's
this Miami Blues? What's going on here?
In a lot of those senses, the movie does not hold up. I also think that if this movie were made today, they would not be calling him a Shylock for sure. I think it's inappropriate. Yes, I do actually like to take, I think, Travis and Eric, I think combined to with the whole comment of Morgan Freeman being a quote colored guy and Delroy Lindo's reaction to that. And that ended up making more sense to me, given Lindo's casting and how different that is. All that having been said, I do not think that this is like an egregiously backwards movie that we have to sort of like cancel because it's done something horrible. I don't think that at all. And obviously I think it holds up in the sense that I think it's a great movie, still worth watching for anybody, I think. But I brought it to the table, so I better like it, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I could have intended to bring something I hated. But
I mean, right, that's true. We're on the show every week, so we can bring up movies that even we might not even know if they hold up anymore. We get to ask that question. But since you're getting the one off.
Clearly, as the most engaging guest host you've ever had, you're going to be inviting me back. So
yeah, clearly. I mean, we are grateful for your passion, man. You've definitely brought a lot of passion and tons of information to this show. You are as good as guest as anybody else. I will say that. That goes for you too, Chad Gibbons. I love Chad Gibbons, but hey, you're getting a run for your money here. Ange, next time you come on, you have to bring it. Okay, I'll go next. Sure, I'll go. I don't care. I never saw this movie, so I didn't have a nostalgic feel. I didn't have to have any type of baggage, if you will, with this film. I got to just watch it and see it and experience it for the first time. And in fact, I watched it twice because the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, I kind of enjoyed this. And the first time you watch a movie, you're kind of like, you don't know what to expect because it's all new for the first time. So I wanted to make sure I got a second viewing of it so I didn't miss anything or I understood at least some of the movie's intentions. And yeah, there's things that don't hold up. But But I mean, like, there are still gangsters today that probably punch a woman in the face to get information out of her. I mean, that happens. So I'm actually of the school where I kind of like more true to life verbiage and actions of cruel, awful people that do exist in this world. The movies aren't always about a fairy tale. There's Disney movies. You can save all the Disney movies for the fairy tales and the happy wonders of the world that exist in Fantasyland. I think that this movie holds up. I thought it was entertaining. I was entertained. I thought John Travolta was really fucking good, too. I don't even say that enough today. He was outstanding, and I know this was part of his whole comeback, but he was he was as good in this, and he made me believe his character as much as anything I'd ever seen him in. I was really impressed with his efforts, so I'm in. This movie holds up.
Yeah, why don't I go next as the kind of the odd man out, obviously. I'll give you the last word, Travis. So for me, the movie is very unique in terms of its genre. It's less cruel than Tarantino, and yet it doesn't have this smooth sexiness of Soderbergh and what he did with Elmore Leonard. So for me, it's kind of a middle ground. It's like okay pizza to me. Like, well, not exactly Domino's bad, but just okay pizza. Like, I'll eat it. We've got a lot of humorous interactions, but that's about it in my opinion. We got these info dump plot scenes. And for me, it just doesn't hold up. I think there was a time and a place for this exact movie. I imagine it seemed super fresh at the time. Remember it having this huge marketing push, but in my opinion, it's just kind of a dumb mob comedy mixed with some tepid Hollywood satire. It's overconfident, in my opinion. It's crowded, in my opinion. So if you've never seen an Elmore Leonard adaptation, watch Jackie Brown or Out of Sight. And if you want Hollywood satire, watch The Player by Robert Altman. I think they're both better films.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you right here. I think this movie holds up. I think that it's a fun movie. I think that it's a funny movie. I think that it's I don't approach the segment, does it hold up? I think as we were just saying, quite the same way that you two guys do. Like, to me, when I ask myself, does a movie hold up? I'm saying, like, I enjoyed this movie when it came out. I have not watched it in a long time. Does it still hold up? Is it still a good movie? That's it. Could it be released now? Do I need to judge it by the standards of this time? None of that's on my radar so much. I'm just trying to see, like, like when we watched Joe Dirt, like, yeah, a lot of the language in there, like, made it so it's hard to watch now. It's hard. It sucks the enjoyment out of it, because of the language, But for this, it's just. Did I like this movie back in the day? Yes. I watched it now. It still holds up as a good movie to me. It was definitely one that it may have slumped a little bit towards the end, but I think that that's kind of more, again, like, because I've watched it so many times that, like, I kind of get a little bit bored with it because I've seen it so many times. And then one last thing I wanted to say that I didn't mention while we were talking about the rest of it. I do love that there's, like, this moment where John Travolta is making fun of the 3 Men and a Baby movies. Like, I could never do movies like that. He's, like, fresh off of Look Who's Talking 3 or whatever. But
when that happened, I thought for a second, I even said to my wife, I was like, oh, that's right, because he was in that. No, wait, he wasn't in that. Oh, he was in Look Who's Talking. Like, it took me a moment to realize he wasn't getting himself.
It's pretty funny. So yeah, a lot of meta jokes. I mean, there it's a little heavy with the Tarantino. It's clearly trying to be a Tarantino movie in some ways. And I don't care for that. There's some missteps, but overall, yeah, this movie is still pretty good.
Yeah, in a movie like this, when Lindo and Travolta are actually talking about the script in Harry's office, you can see that they wouldn't have to be gangsters necessarily. Like, they go beyond that. There's a love for movies between them. That kind of stuff in this movie, to me, makes it interesting and entertaining, and I like that.
The 90s, man, they really started to try to humanize even gangsters and people in these roles in terms of the career go, and I dig that. It makes them more human and likable.
I think that one of the legacies of this film that is probably overlooked, and I think it's a legacy of the marketing campaign. And you're right that the just ubiquitous nature of that one sheet with the 4 of them on it with their sunglasses and leather jackets is. I don't know if you guys have seen the film Burn Hollywood Burn, an Alan Smithy film, a mockumentary. I think it's hilarious. It is very much an acquired taste. But they are spoofing. They're doing a documentary, so it's a mockumentary. So it's sort of a Spinal Tap concept, right? And it's about the making of a film by a man named Alan Smithy, who can't then use the nom de plume Alan Smithy, which the DGA gives to its directors when they hate a movie they've made. But the key of it is that it's an action film where they've gone out of their way to get the biggest stars of the year. So they've got Sylvester Stallone, Jackie Chan, and Whoopi Goldberg together in an action movie. And I feel like putting Gene Hackman, John Travolta, Rene Russo, and Danny DeVito together in a comedy very much informed that concept in that film. So I will always love Get Shorty's marketing campaign for spawning an entire other film.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to check that out. Joe Esterhaus is the writer on that too?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, do that. Oh, and there's a thing, the actual director, actually Alan Smithy himself on that movie.
Wait, there really is an Alan Smithy?
Oh, Alan Smithy is the name. The DGA says if you want to take.
I know that.
Oh no. The guy who actually directed the movie Burn Hollywood Burn disowned it. Yeah. But then in the movie, is it Eric Idle? Somebody plays the director whose name is Alan Smithy, who then can't disown the movie that gets made, the movie within the movie. Anyway, yeah. But yeah,
I'll check that out. I'll see if I can find that. That sounds great.
Yeah, Burn Hollywood Burn, very good. Maybe you can pick it for your next one, Mike. I'll listen.
Oh, boy, that's right. Hey, I'll look forward to that. Steve Paulo, what a great job today. We're very lucky and fortunate to have Steve in.
Lots
Definitely.
of fun.
You hold up, Steve. You hold up as a guest host. And we want to thank Steve for coming on the show. If you liked what you heard, you can follow Steve, of course, on Twitter at Steve Paulo, Paulo. Very simple. Steve Paulo. He does great work, and he's got his own websites too. If you're into like betting and stuff, beyond movie stuff, right, Steve? You got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, most of my social media presence is sort of fantasy baseball oriented. I did try to do a thread of 31 movies for the month of March. Didn't actually make it. Have 3 left that I got through 29. I think I ended up with, I think Tombstone was the last one. I got 3 more that I actually should probably do at some point. But yeah, it's a nice long thread of like my absolute favorite movies. This, of course, was on it. And so one of the reasons I picked it.
All right. There it is. Remember, cinema9pod at protonmail.com, and follow us. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. That'll help us out. We would love a quality review. But having said that, it's Travis's turn. We're back to the top of the rotation. What's going to be next week's film, Trav?
All right. Well, I picked a movie. We're going back to the year. Yes, it is good. We're going back to the year 1990, going real far back. I think the farthest back I've gone. Why does this upset you? Because we're still in the 90s?
I don't know. It's totally unfounded. Completely unfounded.
I mean, you just threw your hands in the air and glowered at me. So, I mean, sorry that this movie was made in 1990. I picked 2014. I picked 2012. Come on.
True.
You done a fine job.
All right. So we're going back to 1990 with a film that seemed like it was going to be around forever, and instead it just kind of became like one iconic scene, and people don't really talk about this movie anymore. But for a while, it was huge. Directed by Jerry Zucker. I'm talking about Ghost.
Wow.
We're doing Ghost.
This was huge. This was a hugely famous film.
Yeah, brought Ghost. The Righteous Brothers, like
Jerry Zucker of all people, unbelievable.
Jerry Zucker.
Yeah,
it's amazing. And this is a weird blend of comedy and supernatural and drama and mystery, and like there's all kinds of stuff going on in this movie.
Didn't she win the Academy Award, or was she at least nominated?
Whoopi Goldberg won. She was nominated. She won. Okay. So
best supporting. Yeah, I'm glad I brought up Whoopi just moments ago because
I was so grateful that you did.
Also, that movie has and obviously you guys are getting into it next week, but that movie has the best villain death moment of like any movie that is. Yeah, no, of any movie. I love the way the villain dies. Oh my god,
we'll see.
I can't
Tony Goldwyn.
We'll see if the rotoscoping holds up.
Seriously, Michael, you're not going to say it? The line? Get off my train!
Not yet. I was going to, I'm
saving it.
That's an interesting. I'm surprised that you chose this, but I'm cool with it. I'm surprised. It's great. Ghost. This is good news. Ghost. All right.
Michael approves. All right, yeah, and we get to do a little deeper dive into Patrick Swayze. We've only really got to talk about him with Donnie Darko. So
the last time we did a movie from 1990 was Darkman, so I'm hoping maybe to get a little bit more out of this one. But
hopefully, we'll see.
By the way, Steve, you like Darkman? Is that a movie that you enjoyed?
Nope.
There you go.
Damn, Steve.
Enough said. All right, there it is. Thank you to Steve Paulo for joining us. Make sure you guys follow him on Twitter. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys for having me. It was awesome.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. Good stuff, man. We'll see you guys next week on the Cinema 9 podcast.